Confidence conclusion. There's people with like innate abilities to just stand and look professional, to overcome adversity like The Rock. Very gifted, very, very fortunate. But there's also people who rock back and forth, who don't have enough money to just buy a girlfriend on the internet dating website with explanations of fancy stimulus and big rewards of sexiness and 1,000 pictures that their friends took of them. I have to get so clear and so concise that I can feel the energy between my fingers, that the warmth of the blood between the fingers starts to heat the whole hand because it's nearly boiling. And have to endure scars, coldness, and confusion. Who's listening? Who's watching? Who's gonna come tell me I'm a bitch next? And to shut up. These all cause emotions. The benefit to what's being explained with the social confidence has to do with having less emotions that are uncontrolled, having less spontaneity and more recognition. And there's a real discrepancy financially, visually, and most notably socially. And there's choices and options for how to get rid of the sadness involved, the depression that's possible. And the boredom. To regain a confidence with the brain, body, and mind, and self. To go one step further. And the most potent of all, silence. Not out of rudeness, not out of lack of empathy, but to end the suffering. Confidence doesn't require a voice, doesn't require gesture or behavior or ears or eyes. And all it needs is energy, focus, and good old concentration. And then all the speed and all the fanciness are consciousness in the world. Consciousness in the world, in the emotions and the uncertainty and the doubt and the frustration are why folks have homes, an apartment, a studio, a house. So they're not scared, so they're not afraid, so they're not paranoid, so they're not worried about the world. And then confidence has more to do with decision making. Choices for home decorations, if you want to be real specific. Choices for service animals, choices for dogs and cats, choices to have a snake that could eat you in the middle of the night. Or an iguana that will stare at you so long you finally start hiding under a table to let it know it's the boss, it's in charge of the home. And nobody says to turn the lights off unless the power company's at your door saying, well, you didn't pay your bill for the last year, so I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to use candles until you get some money. Nobody says nutrition to make the confidence stronger and more powerful has limits. Only canned food. Only eating out of a bowl. And the restrictions are dependent on who's in the world at home, in the house, in the apartment, in the studio. People choose to live with each other. People choose to date. People choose to marry. People choose to be lovers. People choose to bring home an animal from the shelter. But the cost of the choice is the decision-making process that's so important. Picking a dog that will tear every last piece of fuzz off the couch to see the mess they made. The cat meowing, 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 meowing. With the husband or wife who just hits their kid or hits their significant other for an emotional stimulus and the reward of control and power. All solvable problems, theoretically, because the abuse gets to be very tricky with weapons and threats and harassment. Fear is the biggest control mechanism on earth, I think. Animals, though, can get sent back to find a better home. The curtains from 1945 can get updated to the year 2020. The ugly colored walls can have tapestries and art. And consciousness can have a nice, relaxing, and enjoyable limit. Stretched all the way to the boundaries and then shrunk all the way down to a raisin. But not to have a party and not to have some reward and stimulus, but to be ready for the world. Not to go to the restaurant, not to go to the bar, but to go get food, to go get supplies, groceries, coffee, clothing. And when the confidence in the world starts to get disrupted, a person can remember, a person can have enough brain power, a strong enough mind to go faster, slower, down a different aisle, up a different elevator at a different time, to stay out of the violence and the suffering and the restriction of freedom. All the way down to hunger and fruit, the way Gandhi decided to be nonviolent. Confidence makes the brain, mind, and body have psychological cognition. Taking away someone's confidence is the same as restricting their voice and restricting their hands, bodies, eyes, and words coming out of the mouth. People have less energy, people have less goals, less aspirations, and they're way, way, way less resilient to despair, depression, and especially sadness, weight gains, self-confidence problems, looking in the mirror with the body and the brain and the mind, seeing the abuse from eating pizza for 4 weeks straight. But in the home, in the house, in the apartment, the studio, where there's a safe, easy to identify consciousness, then the mirror's not so scary anymore. The mirror is the courage, the strength, the honor to not just get mad, but to make progress and be positive and emotionally healthy. The end.